On this episode of That Shit Doesn't Define You, we're going to be talking about hustle. Not hustle like the world praises hustle, the grind, stay late, don't sleep, the busiest person in the room wins the biggest award. Yeah, we're going to talk about the truth, how hustle can build dreams. It's not a bad thing. Y'all talk about that, but it also can build cages. When work becomes your worth, what you define as success, it becomes slavery to you and it becomes an addiction. And so today we're going to talk about what happens when the hustle that is so praised becomes bondage and becomes an addiction. And what happens? What do we do about it? How do we recognize it? That's what we're going to talk about today. So you don't want to miss it. Please be here. Have you ever hit a moment where success wasn't enough? Where the weight of your past and the scars no one sees, or the doubts you don't dare voice, keep you from breaking through to the life you know you're capable of? Maybe on the outside, you've achieved more than most, but inside, there's still something holding you back. If that hits home, take a breath. You found your people. You found your tribe. Welcome to That Shit Does Not Define You, Stories of Hope. I'm Athena Captain, joined by my co-host, Jada Haycraft. This isn't just another podcast, friends. It's a space to strip away the labels, the shame, and the invisible barrier standing between you and your next chapter in life.
In every episode, we'll bring you raw, real stories of resilience, people who have rewritten their lives, and give you the strategies and tools to do the same. Whether you're climbing out of rock bottom or breaking through to your next level, your future starts here. Let's get started.
I do want to say thank you, everyone who is here. Jada and I are so excited. This podcast is doing really well. We're getting a lot of positive feedback because it's changing lives. So I want to say thank you for being here, but please like and subscribe. We do not make money. We're not looking at it for that. We just want these stories to be heard by people it can help. So if you know someone that could utilize this podcast, please share it with them. We want to make an impact, and you have the ability to make an impact as well with us. So like, subscribe, share with as many friends as possible, and let's get down and dirty. Who are we talking to today, Jada?
Love that question because I'm so honored. I get the honor of interviewing you, Athena.
I know. Why do so many of the podcasts do I get to get interviewed because I'm the one that has the problem? But anyway, it's okay.
Hey, because you've overcome the problems. That's
Amen to that. I have overcome the problem. Yeah, absolutely. With a lot of help from God. So
maybe we'll have a good podcast where you can interview me.
yes.
Give it a little switch up.
Well, I bet we've got a few there. And I'll tell you what, when the book comes out, we'll have to do a whole series, and we'll talk to you about where you're mentioned in a chapter.
Ooh, a little special honorary mention.
Yeah. Anyway,
I think I might have a story in there.
I bet you do. Awesome. All right. So let's put me on the hot seat. I mean, we want to be helpful to the people listening.
Totally.
So don't go easy on me. Let's get real. So let's see what we can do to help.
Okay, perfect. Well, first, I want to just start off by noting that workaholism is often celebrated in our culture. It's worn as that badge of honor, that, I'm busy badge. And so, can you share with us when you realized that your hard work had crossed into something destructive for your life rather than something positive?
Yeah. Well, I want to. I'll get there. I also want to talk about how I got there. Do you know what I mean? Like
Totally.
how, you know what I mean? I think it's really important. And we are learning as we're doing this series that there's a trigger, there's something that causes you to lean towards any kind of addiction. And I will say, so mine was because of my childhood, I lacked identity. I lacked self confidence. I lacked understanding what my value was. And I was searching for that. I was searching for anything that would make me feel worthy, validated, important. My childhood did not make me feel any of those things, nor did I really understand my identity. So that wasn't really explained a lot to me growing up. So what happened is And I think you know this, and the listeners probably know this, but I went to college and I blew it. I lost everything because I had a nervous breakdown. And so I didn't finish college. So I had to get a job. You know what I mean? I mean, hello. And so I got a job and I learned very quickly that I was good at sales and I was good at leadership. And so man, after not feeling validated and important about anything, I grabbed hold of that, right? And I was like, holy cow, I can beat people at this. I can be good at this. This is something that not only can pay my bills, but it can validate, right? And so what happened, literally from the age of 21 to 26, I got into retail sales. And I'm not trying to be braggadocious, but I won every award. I won national awards. I got promoted and promoted, and companies sought me. I didn't go to them. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, good for you." Yeah, good for me. But I was doing it because that's where my self-esteem came from. That's where my value came from. That's how I knew I was valuable and important, and that this world needed me at all was only because of how hard I worked, right? I literally had stacks of awards, and they mattered more to me than my marriage at that time, any relationship I had that time. Nothing mattered more to me than achievement at work. And I won't say that in my early 20s I recognized that. I didn't. It was an addiction. I mean, I craved it. I would work 18-hour days and not complain. No one would ever outwork me. And I did that for over a decade. No one outworked me. And if we could bring people who worked with me and they're like, yeah, no. Bosses loved me because I never complained. I won I won the awards and I worked. I mean, I worked hard. And I was a team player. I would work for other people. And so what that meant is I didn't have any friends, really, right? I had my best friend who's still, my best friend, and I had my husband. But that marriage was falling apart, right? Um, and so the marriage was struggling. I didn't really have hobbies or a social life. I only had work. And I think it didn't hit me until I was in my early 30s
Mm.
that, hey, there might be more to life and you might be more than just these awards.
Well, so what I hear you saying is that, at first you were happy to be working those 18 hours a day. You were happy to win all those awards, to work as hard as you could, to put in the hours because that's where you were finding your validation and your worthiness as just a person. And you started to realize that one, you didn't have much of a social life, two, your marriage was falling apart. And then after that is whenever you realized that there was more to life than working 18 hours a day.
Isn't that crazy that I did that? But I
I'm like,
did.
"That's wild."
I honestly did that on a
Yeah,
regular.
yeah.
And I will tell you to this day, sometimes when people are like, "Man, I worked so hard," I'm like, "Mhm. Yeah, okay. Mhm." But anyway,
Totally.
not
I mean,
not good.
perception's reality. Whenever you are working you're used to working 18 hours a day, you're like, "Man, what's 9 hours?"
Yeah,
Yeah. No,
yeah.
that makes sense. So, tell me, what did that workaholism look like in your daily life? How did that affect you mentally, physically, and emotionally?
Well, okay, so here's the thing. You're exhausted. When you're working that many hours, you're physically exhausted. And so I have struggled with my weight my whole life. And so food is it's a comfort. So I worked a ton. I was, and so I didn't eat very healthy. I wasn't working out. And I gained weight really easily. Dang it. And so these two addiction, this workaholism and this food addiction, boy, did they play well together. I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm always at work. Well, then I have to eat something on the run. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it didn't take long, right? Before my health, I found myself 30 years old, over 200 pounds. It was weird. And this is weird about me. I can be 200 pounds. I've been 300 pounds, but I can still go to the gym and kill it. It's just
Mhm.
weird. So I would still play tennis sometimes and stuff, but my health didn't matter. I only did what I needed to do to fuel the workaholism.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
so you get mentally tired, you get physically tired, and your emotional needs don't get met by an addiction. That's a false thing. You think they do, but you're empty and you're low and you're sad and you don't understand why. And unfortunately for workaholism, what I started to notice is that people then started expecting me to constantly work that much. And so it was tiring and it was emotionally empty and it physically hurt me. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So what would you say, to, many people are just saying, I'm just driven. How do you think that either they can or someone else can tell the difference between what healthy ambition looks like or unhealthy workaholism?
Well, that's a great question. Thank you for asking that because I'm going to tell you, I'm still driven. If you don't think I'm driven at 52, I'm going to 10x a business you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I am still extremely driven. However, here's the difference. And I'm going to steal this. If you haven't listened to one of our other podcasts that we've done, I'm going to steal something from somebody. But here's the thing: if your personal life, right, is out of control, if your health is out of control, if you don't have anything but work, and all your friends are only from work, I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to ask you what's really going on. Why are you avoiding your life? And I think that's the question. What are you avoiding or what are you trying to fill? For me, I was trying to fill being valuable, important, that I mattered, right? What I was avoiding was a marriage that was absolutely falling apart. That I knew was not going to be restored because of some circumstances outside of my control. So I didn't want to go home at night. Right? And so if you're listening, you got to ask yourself, am I doing this to avoid going home? Am I doing this to avoid something else in my life? Or am I doing this because it makes me feel important, right? That's critical. Ask yourself those questions. I think that's what's important. You absolutely, though, can continue to be driven. What's interesting is I am driven and I'm actually accomplishing far more right now than I ever did when I was a workaholic because um I have I have balance, right? I know we teach a course on this, but a goal setting, but I have balance.
Mhm.
I have friendships. If you don't know me, I am rich. My bank account with friendships is like, I'm rich. I am blessed beyond measure with really good friendships.
You do
So
have amazing friends.
I
I can
do. I'm
attest to that.
so blessed. I'm so blessed. So I have great friendships. I now have a husband that we have been together for, I don't know, 14 years, something like that, who I can't wait to go home to, who's my best friend. And uh, I can't wait to go on a walk with him in the morning. Um, I have a nonprofit that I love, and I have all of that going on in my life. So I can be driven at work and give tons of energy here. but I'm never gonna do it at the cost of these other things, right? So my family, my friends, the nonprofit, um, my health now, finally, I'm putting my health on that. Um, I do not believe that God asks any of us to sacrifice our family, friends, health, or servitude to others. He would never ask us to do something in life that depletes all of those things. I just don't think so. So, yes, be driven, but have a full life. And I promise you, um, that you'll actually accomplish more, because the healthier you are on those other things, then, you actually, funny enough, in the 9 hours you work a day, can actually accomplish far more.
Mm.
I don't think people realize, when I was a workaholic, I there there were times I wasn't as productive because I was physically tired, I was mentally tired, you know what I'm saying? I didn't have other things to fill me up.
Mhm.
So even though I put in so many hours, hours don't equal productivity, and that's a whole
Mm.
'nother podcast, but anyway.
No,
So
you
that's how
can't.
you would know. What else is going on in your life?
That makes sense, and yeah, you can't pour from an empty cup either, and you
That's
were
it.
depleted, um, to put it lightly.
Yeah.
Um,
You're like 18-hour days on the regular, and I'm not joking. Yeah, for
yeah.
real.
Oh, man. So, the life that you just described is vastly different than what you described as your work, in your 20s. So, when did you realize that something had to change? Paint that picture for us.
Um, I realized something had to change when I had my daughter, Savannah.
Mm.
When I had Savannah, I would love to say that I had some intervention that got me smart before then, but that's not true. I was burnt out. I was pretty burnt out, but I was very successful, but I was burnt out. But then I had Savannah, and something about when I had Savannah, I don't know if a lot of people. I was on bed rest before she was born for months, and I couldn't wait to go back to work. By the way, I went back to work after 4 weeks because I had postpartum so badly. Um, and that was before I found out she was special. And it just was, I had to go back to work. My postpartum was just right because I wasn't getting my addiction,
Yeah.
right? So for months, I was in the hospital. This is how crazy addiction is. I had to be hospitalized. If I won't tell you the gruesome details, but it was bad. Okay, it was really gruesome. I had to be hospitalized when Savannah was only 26 weeks along, right? So you could lose her at that case, right? I went to the hospital thinking, I had
Mm.
lost her. Anyway, I'm laying and the doctors are all there, whatever. And I look at the doctor after this huge trauma. We find out she's okay, but I'm not okay. And I asked my doctor, "So when do I go back to work?" Very first question. And he said, "That's the wrong question. The question is, when am I going to allow you to stand up again?"
Mm.
He's like, "I'm hospitalizing you and you don't even get to turn over or stand or be in a wheelchair without my permission."
Mm.
And I wrote in a baby journal, oh wow, to Savannah while she was in my stomach. And I said, "You are the only thing," and I said thing at that point. I said, "You're the only thing that could ever make me stop." Right? But after she was born, that or I had to have it again, and so I went to work, and the postpartum for me calmed down, and her dad was staying home full time. But I even though I was at work, I didn't wanna work 18 hours. I had a little baby,
Mm.
right? Um, and I wanted to be with her. I wanted to see her.
Mhm.
And, all of a sudden, I was faced with, how are you going to be a mom and still be a badass at work, you know?
Yeah.
And so it made me sit back and say, get your priorities straight. How are you going to do this? Because that little girl, matters. And then, I'll say this too. It deepened when I found out she was special, right? When I found out she was special, it's interesting. We went to a doctor appointment. We were there most of the day. And well, I found out she was special, which if you've never experienced that, that's a hard day. I went to work because, right, that was my coping mechanism. I went to work and I didn't even cry. I didn't in that moment do any of that. I couldn't allow myself there to process it. But I later when I processed it, I started to tell myself, this life you're living the way you're living it is not going to work. And you need to get honest with yourself that anyway, something else matters more than you do or more than your achievement does.
Mm,
She saved
wow.
me.
Mm. That is it's heartbreaking that it had to come to that point for
Yeah.
you to, for you to realize that you needed to step away from work in the capacity that you were doing it, but thank God for it.
Yeah. If I would have never had Savannah, I would have become a single person that her career was the only thing that mattered. And I wouldn't be who I am today. A lot of people say, God gives special needs people or people with special needs to special people. I'm like, oh no, God gave me Savannah so that I could mature into the person God needed me to be. So I needed Savannah. She's like, hey, I'll help you out later.
I'll help you out.
But
That's too
anyway,
funny.
going
So
back to workaholism.
I think you've answered this a little
Yeah.
bit, but I am curious, more on a granular level. So, breaking free from that overwork often requires redefining success. So, how did your definition of success shift in your journey from what it was in your 20s to where it is now?
So the obviously Savannah helped me start reshaping that. Now, what's interesting is I already had a pretty strong relationship with God in my 20s, and I had to because I had gone through a lot of therapy and I needed His help. But I still hadn't digested that my identity, right, was good or anything at that point. And so Savannah got me out of some of the rut. But what happened is, I know that we're going to fast forward here. I had this very lucrative, very good, winning all the awards still, but not working as much, and career that I thought I would have forever. And 2009 happened, and I lost. I got laid off from this dream job that I thought I would have forever. And it was in that moment. Um, I was blessed that I had another job within 5 days. However, in that moment is when I really started to realize that my value didn't come from work. That there was additional things that made me valuable. And what that did, what happened is I started living with my best friend, Sally, and, because my marriage was falling apart, and then I moved in with her, by the way, and then I lose my job. Woo, yeah, I'm a great friend, right? But I will say to her
Great tenant.
credit, yeah, to her credit, when I called, she was the first person I called when I lost my job, and she's like, "We'll get through this." So to her credit, right? But she knew, I mean, I had a job in 5 days, but I will tell you what happened. What helped it is when I lived with her, she started showing me love. And she started showing me that there was other things that were more important about me than work. And I'll never forget this. So I think it's important to get around people that show you love. Now, I had people in the past that loved me, but they were um they were my friends and they loved me and I'm thankful, but it didn't hit like this. My heart was ready for it, right? Um every night when I would get home from work when I lived with her for 9 months. She met me at the door and she couldn't wait to hear about my day. I had never experienced that in my entire life, ever. As a child, I was afraid to come home. In my marriage, I didn't wanna come home. And, I had never felt that. And so, experiencing that and starting to see that this person didn't love me because of my achievements or anything like that, she just loved me, helped me go down a path that then I started seeking my faith and saying, "What else is there?" And, that started to be the break. So today, the difference is that I understand more of my value, and if tomorrow my empire I'm trying to create crashed, that's okay. It's just a job that didn't work out,
Mm,
right? It was an idea that didn't work out. My value comes from my family, my friends, my service, my faith, my health.
mm,
Those things those are things you can't take away from me. The world can't take those things away from me, right? And
yeah,
so that's how I started to get some balance, and um, that's how I do it. I will say though, I still work hard.
you do.
I will always work. I will never retire. I love working, um, but it can't be an addiction. It cannot fill the things that really matter.
Mm,
That's not what God wants for my life.
yeah, yeah. I know you've joked, and I don't think it's really a joke, but on the podcast before about how one day you'll die speaking on a stage, and that'll be your utopia. Like,
I would love it. I love it. I wanna go out with a bang, you
go
know?
out with a
Yeah, but I'm
maybe
fortunate.
traumatize a few people in the audience, but
I know, but you know what? Here's the thing. If you're listening to this and you're like, "Look, I love working. I wanna work until I'm 80," good on ya. But if you're listening to this and like, "Hell no, like, I'm retiring at 55," good on ya. You know what? We're all wired different. You do you, and do it well, but the biggest thing on here is I don't want anyone to ever think that you can win enough awards or put enough work in to fulfill the emptinesses that come. Not enough work for that. Enough praise.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so my next question then, it goes into how workaholism can hurt your relationships. I know you talked about that whenever you were talking about
Yeah,
your time in your 20s, but what have you learned about connection, family, or friendships in your process of healing?
I love that question. So I reprioritized what was important in my life, and I will tell you, any addiction, including workaholism, will rob you of the things that really help you heal, which are human connection, health, faith, and family. And addiction is here to rob you. Don't mistake it. We are learning that more and more as we do this series. And so for me, I didn't value friendship, Jada, until I got aware. And then I started nurturing. What's interesting is some of the energy that went into those 18-hour days went into my friendships and went into my marriage and went into being a mom now of a teen and went into service and went into being a mom of a child with special needs. So I took that energy and I placed it other places. And that for me, I learned you only have so much energy. I think we've talked in one of our podcasts, we have so many that you're 100%, right?
Hmm.
And so you can only give, so you got to take percentages to other things. And then that's the percentage you have left. And so I said, okay, I'm going to give all these things my percentage of energy. And then this is what I have left for work. And what I have learned is when you do that, um, work actually feels better and you actually achieve more. So, anyway, I don't want workaholism to destroy people's relationships with other people. I know we have to work. I know there's probably single moms listening and saying, well, that'd be nice. I wish I didn't have to work as much. Hey, I get you. I was a single mom. I had to, I worked 60 hours a week. Now that was less than I used to. So, I get it. You have to work. There's a difference between I gotta pay the bills and I gotta work, then I'm going to work because that's my value, that's who I am, that's what makes me tick. That's
Mhm,
what I want people to know me as,
mhm.
right? So no shame if you have to hustle because you're single mom or single dad and that's what you gotta do. Hey, you got to do what you gotta do. So much respect. um, and nurture whatever percent you have, nurture the things that are most important to you. Today, we're talking about addiction, those people who are using it to feed other things other than themselves and their families.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like that escapism too of,
Yeah,
what are you if you're escaping to work.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That's there's a difference between enjoying going to work and using it to escape,
mhm.
for sure.
Okay,
Yep.
got it. Well, before we go to the science and research, I do want to ask you one last question. So, for those listeners that are stuck in the grind, they're afraid to slow down. What is one small practical step that they can take this week to begin loosening that grip on workaholism?
Okay. Um, Allow yourself time to just process and ask yourself, am I doing it to escape? Am I doing it to avoid? Am I doing it to fill something, because I'm empty? Ask yourself those questions and allow yourself to be honest with yourself. And then I have to say this, know that know that there's so much more to you and um, that if you are in an addiction, that there's so much beauty outside of the addiction. So ask yourself those really tough questions. Know there's beauty outside. I know you said one thing, but and then go talk to somebody. You have to go be honest. Ada, you have to. You got to be aware of it, understand there's hope on the other side, and go not be alone.
It's rich. Well, I know that you're going to have some more practical steps when we get to rubber meets the road. But before we get to that point, I did want to share some
Yeah.
science, if that's all right.
I want to see this science.
Perfect. So, the first set of science comes out of the Journal of Occupational Health Psychology from 2016. And their studies show that workaholics are more likely to experience sleep problems, depression, anxiety, and cardiovascular disease.
True.
Can you speak to that?
Yep. True.
True. The second set of research is from Stanford University, and they found that productivity sharply declines after 50 hours per week. By 70 hours per week, workers get no more done than if they had worked 55 hours. So, mic drop. That's
There you go.
like, what? So, yeah, Athena, that goes directly back into what you were saying. You may have been working 18 hours a week, but those were not all productive hours. And oftentimes more now, you're more productive when you're working 50 hours a week than when you were working. I don't know the math because I suck at math, but 18 times five times maybe two more. Who knows?
Crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. And the last set of research comes out of the American Journal of Psychiatry in 2019, and psychologists confirm that when people tie their identity to their job performance, they are more vulnerable to burnout and have mental health struggles.
Amen.
So,
Amen. Because you know what? Things happen at work.
yeah,
You can't affect. And if your identity is wrapped up in that, then you have a failure at work and all of a sudden you're a failure. No, no.
think
You
about all the
just need to
people
learn.
like, man, you think about all the people in like real estate right now. Like, it's not the best
Yeah.
market, and if they're tying their, I mean, really into any industry whenever you're in a down market, but
Mhm.
if you're tying your
Yeah.
production even to your identity, you're gonna be very disappointed.
Yeah. Identity is 100% something else. Occupation is one thing, identity is something else. That could be a
Totally.
whole nother series we do. What is
There you
identity?
go. Coming up with ideas
Let's
all left
get
and
you guys.
right.
I know, right? So I want to talk about the rubber meets the road because, and obviously, I don't want you guys stuck. We don't want you guys stuck. And our hope is this podcast is uplifting, hopeful, and practical for you. So, number one thing, set times to actually stop. And I'm going to say what I said earlier, stop and reflect. Sit down and actually honor yourself to ask yourself, why am I doing this? Is this something productive? Do I want to do it? So, but even if you think you're listening to this, you're like, I don't think I have an addiction, then I still want you to at least take some time and stop and take some time for yourself. Ask yourself, is your schedule to a point where you will allow yourself some you time? If not, ask yourself why. Number two, I love this one. Ready? Schedule joy. Schedule it.
Oh, I like that one.
Schedule joy. Put something on your calendar that is about building a relationship, resting, whatever it is that brings you joy. Schedule it. Okay? Now, if you're a workaholic, that's going to be real hard. So that's when you get some help, right? But schedule joy. It's so important, okay, for your mental health. And if you're that single mom working two jobs, or you're that dad working two jobs, still schedule joy. There is time, even if it's an hour, if it's 15 minutes, your brain body needs it. Schedule joy. We need joy because joy helps with hope. Okay. So we need all of those things. And number three, and I talked about this, but redefine success. Okay. Ask yourself, what does success mean? When we teach our goal setting boot camp, we make people ask, what is the real goal of life? Personally, professionally, spiritually, financially, mentally. What are your real goals? You get one life, you guys. We say this all the time. It's not your practice life. Write it down, define it. And that way you can figure out if there's something that's missing. But include all those things that are not tied to work. Okay. You are more than your occupation. Okay. All right. And then number four, practice the art of saying no. Okay. So start thinking about what you're saying yes to, because you are doing it for ego, or to satisfy other people's needs, or any reason that is not productive mentally or spiritually or healthy for you. And start becoming aware of how many times you say yes when you should be saying no. I think that that's really important. One of the things when I was working those 18-hour days, my bosses would come to me and say, "Hey, can you do a double shift? Because we have this and this and this coming." And because they knew I would never say no, right? Because their validation and their praise meant more than my health and all of those things. So, I don't know, Jada. I just want people to know work is good. I'm all about work. I'm even about hustle at work, like get it done, but have purpose, have priorities, right? And understand that your work is not your worth, right? So freedom comes from understanding where you're in bondage and then taking control of that, or getting help from it. So I want you to be free. Maybe. Thank you for interviewing me. That was fun.
Yes, thank you for being my interviewee today. It was fun to be on this side of the microphone. I know you usually get to do the interviews, so it's fun for me. But if you're still listening and if this conversation hit home, please, please, please subscribe, share it with a friend that needs to hear it, and leave us a review. That's how other people find this podcast. Like Athena said, we don't get paid from this. It's just something fun that we do because we are trying to make an impact and it is changing lives. And so share it with someone that wants, that you think that could hear or could use to hear this. And remember,
Absolutely.
Athena's book is coming out soon. So I will put a link in the show notes for you to join the early access list for discounts and exclusive extras. So don't forget to go ahead and go to the show notes, do that. And then also, I don't know if I've mentioned this season yet, but we do have a season resource guide. So please go to the show notes, download that. It has some goodies from the entire season, episodes 1 through 10. We're only on episode 3, so you get a sneak peek at what we'll be talking about the rest of the season. But go ahead, go to this show notes, download that, and get on the list for Athena's book. But to leave you with something serious, this is not your practice life, so don't wait for perfect. Start messy, start scared, just start, because nothing's going to change until you do. So we'll be with you, walking with you every step of the way. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, everybody.